In our last episode, we met the Komodo dragon, a prehistoric predator that has ruled its island home for millions of years, capable of bringing down animals 10 times its size with nothing more than raw, ancient power. But today, we're going somewhere different, somewhere quieter, somewhere the danger doesn't announce itself with a roar. Today, we're talking about something you might not even see, something that could be sitting on your sleeve right now and you wouldn't know it. Something that doesn't need to be the biggest animal in the room to be the most lethal. Because there exists on this earth a place where the ground itself seems to breathe. Where every branch, every leaf, every rock is occupied. Where the jungle floor is not dirt or moss or mud. It is web. This is a place that most maps don't bother to label. A place most governments would rather you forget exists. A remote volcanic island where, at some point in deep natural history, something tipped. Something in the balance of predator and prey, something in the relationship between species and space went completely, irrevocably wrong. And what took over was the spider. Not one spider, not a dozen, but thousands upon thousands packed into every square meter of jungle, every hollow log, every shadow under a stone. We'll call it Spider Island. And the real story behind it is more disturbing than anything Hollywood could invent. Because it's science, it's biology, it's evolution doing exactly what it does when nobody is watching. Would you step foot on this island? For $1 million, keep that thought, we're coming back to it. Picture the Juan Fernandez Archipelago, a trio of volcanic islands rising from the South Pacific, roughly 670 kilometers off the coast of Chile. You will not find these islands on a postcard. You will not find a resort, a duty-free shop, or a shuttle bus. Getting there requires a 6-seat propeller plane through unpredictable Pacific crosswinds, followed by a 90-minute boat ride around jagged coastal cliffs that are nearly impassable by land. And that's just to reach the most hospitable island in the chain. The others? Scientists have called one of them a researcher's nightmare and a traveler's dream simultaneously, which tells you everything you need to know about who goes there and why. These islands formed from volcanic hotspots. They pushed through the ocean floor over millions of years, emerging as raw rock, completely sterile, completely isolated. Every living thing you find on them today had to get there somehow, against all odds, across hundreds of miles of open ocean. How spiders conquered a lifeless rock. For most animals, that crossing would be impossible, but spiders found a way. They always find a way. It's called ballooning. A spider will climb to an elevated point, lift its spinnerets to the wind and release a thread of silk so fine that it catches the air currents and acts as a kite. The spider then lets go. It launches itself into the sky, sometimes rising thousands of feet, sometimes drifting for hundreds of miles and lands wherever the wind decides. Scientists believe this is how the first spiders colonized Robinson Crusoe Island approximately 2 million years ago. A single lineage of ghost spiders, probably swept off the coast of South America, touched down on a volcanic island with almost no predators, almost no competition and an enormous abundance of insect prey. An empty world, an endless buffet, and no one to stop them. What happened next is the defining story of island ecology. Without natural enemies, the spider population exploded, species diversified. In a single genus on Robinson Crusoe Island alone, researchers have identified over 10 distinct endemic species, meaning they exist nowhere else on the planet. Dwarf spiders that grew to over a centimeter when their mainland relatives top out at a millimeter. Spiders that stopped building webs entirely and began hunting on the ground. Spiders that tilted their webs 90 degrees off tree trunks, adapting their architecture because nothing was stopping them from experimenting. A climate built for arachnids. The conditions on these islands are close to perfect for spider survival. High humidity from Pacific fog, dense canopy that regulates temperature, seasonal insect migrations that provide a reliable food source, average temperatures that rarely spike high enough to threaten population health. And critically, the absence of the one predator that has historically kept spider populations in check on every other major landmass: birds. Not zero birds, but far fewer than the mainland. On Juan Fernandez, only 17 species of land and seabirds have been recorded. Contrast that with a similar area of mainland rainforest, which might host several hundred, and the math becomes grimly obvious. No predator pressure plus unlimited prey plus ideal climate, mass population explosion. This is not speculation. This is biology. Researchers who have visited these islands describe something that unsettles even seasoned arachnologists. Not just the number of spiders, but their behavior. Animals that evolved without anything hunting them don't behave like animals that did. They're bolder, they linger in the open. They don't scatter at the sound of footsteps, they have no reason to, because nothing ever came for them. There are more than 51,000 known species of spider on Earth. Most of them are harmless to humans, too small to pierce skin, too docile to bother trying. But in a place like Spider Island, what matters isn't just the species, it's the density. It's the sheer overwhelming number of eight-legged bodies occupying every available surface. Let's talk about who they are. If Spider Island were populated by the world's most venomous species, we'd be talking about a very specific kind of nightmare. The Sydney funnel web spider, native to eastern Australia, is widely considered the most medically dangerous spider on the planet. Its venom contains a peptide called delta-atrachotoxin that targets sodium channels in nerve cells, causing them to fire uncontrollably. Males, which are paradoxically more venomous than females, become extremely aggressive during mating season, wandering away from burrows in search of mates and encountering humans in the process. Before antivenom was developed in 1980, bites from this spider had caused at least 13 known deaths in Australia over a 53-year period. The Brazilian wandering spider, Phonutria nigriventa, holds a record from Guinness World Records as the world's most venomous spider by the sheer potency of its toxin. It can grow to a leg span of 48 millimeters, roughly the length of your index finger, and unlike most spiders, it is an active ground hunter. It doesn't build a web and wait. It walks, it searches. It goes looking for whatever woke it up. Its venom is a cocktail of toxins and serotonin, making any bite extraordinarily painful before the neurological effects even begin. The black widow, found across North and South America, carries a venom believed to be 15 times more potent by weight than that of a rattlesnake. The key word is by weight, because spiders inject tiny amounts. But the mechanism is devastating. Alpha-latrotoxin floods the nervous system with calcium, triggering a cascade of neurotransmitter release that causes muscle cramps, sweating, high blood pressure, and in severe cases, respiratory failure. But here's something the documentaries often skip. The spiders on an isolated island like Robinson Crusoe's aren't just transplants from the mainland. After 2 million years of isolation, they have evolved into something new, something uniquely adapted to island conditions. Dr. Gustavo Hormiga, a spider researcher from George Washington University, who has made 3 National Geographic-funded expeditions to the Juan Fernandez archipelago, described what he found as astonishing diversity. Spiders with legs 3 times longer than their bodies, species with unusually oversized chelicerae, the fang-bearing appendages, dwarf species that grew to 10 times their normal maximum size, freed from whatever environmental pressure kept them small on the mainland. He found spiders that had stopped building webs entirely, shifting to ground-level ambush hunting. He found spiders whose web architecture had rotated 90 degrees off tree trunks, possibly because with no competition for space, there was simply no reason to conform to continental norms. Without predators, without competition, evolution becomes creative. The question is, what you create. Most spider species are nocturnal. During the day, they rest in silk-lined retreats under bark, in crevices beneath leaves. They conserve energy. They wait. But as darkness falls, something shifts. Web-building spiders emerge to construct or repair their traps, sometimes tearing down an old web and consuming the silk to recycle the proteins, then building an entirely new one by dawn. Orb weavers position themselves at the hub of their webs, feeling for vibration through sensory hairs on their legs, the vibration of a moth's wing, the stumble of a beetle, the brush of a human's knuckle against a branch in the dark. Hunting spiders operate differently. Wolf spiders, tarantulas, and wandering spiders don't wait for prey to come to them. They move through the undergrowth at night, tracking vibration, chemical signals, and temperature gradients. Wolf spiders in particular have a distinctive eyeshine, when a light catches them at night. Dozens of tiny reflective points glowing from the forest floor like stars that got lost on their way down. Here is a fact that should give you pause. Spiders don't need to chase you. They just need to be everywhere you might step, reach, or rest your hand. Scientists studying population densities in spider-dominated ecosystems have documented extraordinary concentrations. In the most heavily populated zones of some island habitats, conservative estimates suggest multiple spiders per square meter of forest floor. In denser canopy areas, the number climbs further when you count vertical surfaces, trunks, branches, the undersides of leaves. To visualize that, stand in a room and draw a 1 meter square on the floor. Now put a spider in it. Now put 2 or 3 more. Now imagine every square meter of a 50 square kilometer island looking roughly like that. That's not a metaphor, that's math. And in an ecosystem without the predator pressure that would normally thin those numbers, math is what you're left with. Let's be precise here because precision matters. Spider venom operates on 2 fundamental principles: neurotoxic and necrotic. Either it attacks your nervous system or it attacks your tissue. The worst cases do both. And on a remote island with no anti-venom, no hospital, no helicopter, no way out before sundown, even a moderate bite becomes a different kind of problem. 2 types of venom, 2 kinds of suffering. Neurotoxic venom works on ion channels in nerve cells. Funnel web venom, for instance, contains peptides that hold sodium channels open when they should be closed, causing nerve cells to fire repeatedly in an uncontrolled cascade. The result is a system-wide electrical storm. Muscles that won't stop contracting, glands that won't stop secreting, a heart that loses its rhythm. Alpha-latrotoxin from widow spiders does something similar, but through calcium instead of sodium, triggering a flood of neurotransmitters that causes what's medically known as latrodectism. Muscle rigidity, cramping pain that radiates from the bite into the chest and abdomen, sweating, high blood pressure, and in severe cases, difficulty breathing. Necrotic venom is slower, but arguably more disturbing to witness. The brown recluse spider produces a compound called sphingomyelinase D, an enzyme that attacks cell membranes directly. The tissue around the bite begins to die. Cells lose structural integrity. Over 2 to 3 days, the red swollen area darkens, sinks, and becomes a dry black ulcer that can continue spreading as it destroys muscle beneath the skin. In the most severe cases, this progresses to hemolysis, the breakdown of red blood cells which can trigger kidney failure. Note: the following timeline is based on documented medical literature for severe envenomation from the most dangerous spider species. It assumes no medical treatment is available. 5 minutes. Immediate sharp pain at the bite site. 2 fang marks may be visible. Localized swelling begins. If a neurotoxic spider is responsible, you may feel burning heat radiating up the limb within minutes. Piloerection, the involuntary raising of body hair, is often reported. Some species inject serotonin directly, amplifying pain signals dramatically. 30 minutes, sweating begins. Nausea sets in. Pain may become severe and begin spreading beyond the bite site. In funnel web envenomation, facial muscle spasms and tingling around the mouth can occur. Brazilian wandering spider bites at this stage can produce priapism in men, a painful, sustained involuntary erection caused by the venom's effect on specific neural pathways, a symptom so distinctive it's become a focus of pharmaceutical research for erectile dysfunction treatment. 30 minutes, 2 hours. Systemic effects fully emerge. Abnormal heart rate either racing or irregular. Blood pressure becomes elevated and unstable. Vomiting, abdominal cramping, and vertigo are common. Blurred vision. In severe funnel web cases, pulmonary edema, fluid accumulating in the lungs, can begin, making breathing increasingly labored. Confusion may set in as the central nervous system is affected. 6 hours. This is the window in which, without antivenom, a serious bite from a funnel web or Brazilian wandering spider can become fatal. Respiratory function may deteriorate. Muscle weakness can extend to full paralysis in the limbs. In necrotic bites, the skin around the wound has visibly changed, sunken and darkened. The body's immune response to the venom produces fever, chills, and joint pain. 48 hours. Symptoms of severe envenomation, either stabilize with treatment or without it, can progress to organ failure. Residual effects of neurotoxic bites, including muscle weakness, spasms, and paresthesias, the sensation of pins and needles, can persist for weeks or even months after recovery. On this island, help isn't coming. There is no antivenom, there is no signal. There is only you, the pain, and time. You're on a small vessel, maybe a research boat, maybe a fishing charter that took you somewhere it shouldn't. A mechanical failure. A storm that came faster than the forecast promised. You find yourself washed up on an unfamiliar shore, rocky and dense with vegetation. Your radio is gone, your companions are gone or incapacitated. It's late afternoon. In perhaps 4 hours, it will be completely dark. You are on Spider Island. The first hour. Assessment. The natural instinct is to move inland for shelter. This is exactly the wrong instinct. The forest interior is where spider density is highest, where the humidity has preserved the webs, where the hunting spiders are already beginning their twilight routines. Every branch you push aside is a potential web. Every log you consider sitting on is a potential burrow. Every patch of leaf litter your hand might reach into is home to something that doesn't want to be reached into. The shoreline is safer, rocky, exposed, less hospitable for high-density spider populations. You stay near the coast. Fire, your most important tool. Fire serves multiple functions in this scenario. Warmth, yes. Signal, obviously. But smoke also deters arthropods. Spiders don't like smoke or heat near their habitats. More importantly, firelight keeps you from stepping, sitting, or lying down in the dark on something you haven't inspected. The problem is fuel. On a volcanic island with high rainfall, dry wood is not guaranteed. You need to find it before sundown. Every piece you pick up, you shake. Every surface you work on, you check first. Water, shelter, and the psychology of the dark. Water can likely be found from rainfall collection or from the island streams, though any surface collection method requires filtering. Fresh water is your second priority after fire. Shelter is paradoxical on Spider Island. The trees offer protection from rain, but maximum spider exposure. A rock overhang is better, but must be inspected thoroughly in the light before you commit to it for the night. Your clothing becomes your most important armor. Long sleeves, buttoned cuffs, collar up, nothing trailing on the ground. The psychology of darkness on an island like this is worth talking about, because it's a genuine threat vector. A person who panics will move quickly without looking. A person who moves quickly without looking will brush against webs, disturb resting spiders, and stumble through the exact kind of habitat encounters that cause bites. Every study of spider bites shows the same pattern. The vast majority happen when a human accidentally traps or startles the spider. Slow, deliberate, inspected movement is survival behavior. Panic is not. The real danger isn't one spider. It's thousands, and you can't fight thousands. You can only move carefully enough through them that they never know you're there. Chances of rescue. The honest answer is that your chances depend almost entirely on whether anyone knows where you are and whether you have any way to signal. In the modern era, an emergency locator beacon changes the calculation entirely. Without one, on a remote island with no regular traffic, you're relying on someone noticing your absence and narrowing down your location, a process that in open Pacific waters could take days. A person in good health who avoids bites through careful movement and maintains core temperature can survive several days without serious food and with water available. The window is not impossible, but every bite, every mistake made in darkness compresses that window. Dr. Gustavo Hormiga's expeditions to the Juan Fernandez Islands are among the most documented real encounters with spider-dominated island ecosystems. His descriptions of navigating Robinson Crusoe Island at night, headlamp illuminating webs dusted with cornstarch to make them visible, spider specimens retrieved from beneath rocks and in leaf litter across steep volcanic terrain, capture something the usual nature documentary skips: the sheer physical labor of being present in a place where arachnids occupy every available niche. What's striking in the accounts from his team is not horror, but scientific wonder that exists alongside genuine caution. They work carefully, methodically. They handle specimens with purpose. But they acknowledge, without dramatizing it, that the conditions on these islands are not compatible with casual or unprepared human presence. The Juan Fernandez Islands have a deep history of human misadventure. Alexander Selkirk, the Scottish privateer who was marooned on Robinson Crusoe Island in 1704 after a quarrel with his captain, survived 4 years and 4 months alone before being rescued. His story became the template for Daniel Defoe's novel, Robinson Crusoe. What the legend doesn't dwell on is the reality of what it meant to navigate a remote volcanic island ecosystem completely alone, relying on observation and adaptation. Local fishermen from the small village of San Juan Bautista, less than 1,000 people in total, know to treat the uninhabited islands in the chain with caution. Alejandro Selkirk Island, the largest and most isolated in the group, is largely inaccessible even today. The terrain is steep to the point of being nearly impassable, and the wildlife acts differently than it does anywhere humans regularly appear. Government restrictions on visiting these islands exist not just for conservation, but because the combination of difficult terrain, extreme isolation, and ecosystems genuinely dangerous to unprepared visitors makes them poor candidates for casual access. The Chilean government established the Juan Fernandez Islands Marine Park in 2018, protecting over 100,000 square miles of surrounding ocean. The islands themselves have been a UNESCO World Biosphere Reserve since 1977. There's a concept in evolutionary biology called ecological release. It describes what happens to a species when it arrives in an environment where the constraints that normally shaped its evolution simply don't exist. No predators, reduced competition, abundant resources. The species expands, diversifies, and in some cases becomes something quite different from what it was when it arrived. On islands, this process is accelerated by isolation. There's no genetic flow from the mainland. Mutations that prove advantageous in the island context spread rapidly through a small, contained population. Within a few 100,000 years, and sometimes far less, you have species that would be unrecognizable to their continental ancestors. For spiders, this manifests in size increases among species that grew large enough to exploit new prey. It manifests in behavioral shifts, hunters that switch to web building, web builders that switch to ground hunting. It manifests in venom that became more potent in species that needed faster kills on prey that could escape vertically, through flight or tree climbing. The island doesn't make a spider dangerous because it's trying to hurt you. The island makes a spider dangerous because that's what survival in that specific context selected for. Normal food chains run top to bottom. Apex predators keep mid-level predators in check. Mid-level predators keep prey populations in balance, and so on. Remove the top, and everything below it expands. On an island with no ground-level apex predators, the spider sits at the top by default. Not because it's the most powerful animal in absolute terms, but because nothing is eating it. This is the key insight. Spider Island isn't dangerous because it has the deadliest individual spiders in the world. It's dangerous because it has the highest concentration of functional apex predators at the small scale that are capable of harming humans. The individual spider may not be exceptional. The population density, combined with the absence of anything that would thin it, is what creates the threat environment. Adaptation under pressure. Scientists studying birds on the Juan Fernandez Islands found a key observation that explains spider behavior in these ecosystems. Bird predation is actually one of the primary drivers of nocturnal behavior in spiders across most of the world. When fewer birds hunt spiders, the spiders that evolved to hide during the day simply don't need to. They can be active whenever they want. They can occupy exposed positions that would be suicidal on the mainland. This is the behavioral adaptation that makes Spider Island particularly unsettling. You're not just dealing with more spiders, you're dealing with spiders that have evolved over thousands of generations not to hide from you. Here is where the story stops being just about one island. Climate change is rewriting the ecological maps of arachnid populations globally. Research published in multiple peer-reviewed journals documents the same pattern. Warming temperatures are extending the active seasons for spiders in high-latitude regions. In the Arctic, wolf spiders, already the most abundant predator by biomass in the tundra, are producing second clutches of eggs in seasons where they previously produced one. The population implications are not small. In alpine meadows, Spiderweb architecture is changing in response to warming-induced shifts in prey size. Social spiders in tropical regions are becoming more aggressive in response to the increased frequency of extreme weather events. A 2019 study found that tropical cyclones, which are becoming more intense and more frequent as ocean temperatures rise, are actively selecting for aggression in spider colonies. The ecological conditions that produced Spider Island are not contained to one island. They are a snapshot of what happens when the normal regulators fail, and as those regulators weaken globally, those conditions become easier to replicate. Biologists studying California's endemic trapdoor spiders describe what they call a perfect storm, temperature changing faster than the spiders can adapt through natural selection, combined with habitat loss that fragments the populations that might otherwise migrate. The same researchers who study spider diversity on isolated islands are increasingly focused on conservation, because the same isolation that created the extraordinary ecosystems they study is now making those ecosystems fragile. Spider Island, in other words, is not just a curiosity, it's a case study, a proof of concept for what unchecked population dynamics can produce when the right conditions are in place. And in a world where those conditions are spreading, the question isn't really whether places like it will remain rare. The question is what we do before they become common. We started this episode with a question: $1 million to step foot on Spider Island. By now you understand what the ground actually feels like under those trees, what the dark actually means when the nocturnal species wake up, what a single bite might cost you when the nearest hospital is a day's sailing and a propeller plane ride away. So the real question is this: would you risk going there knowing you might never come back? The island doesn't care what your answer is. It's been there for 4 million years. It'll be there long after we're gone.